The Mexican government just tried to destroy the entire American gun industry, and the Supreme Court shut them down 9-0. Not 5-4, not 6-3, 9-0. Every single justice agreed. And if you own a gun, sell a gun, or just believe in the Second Amendment, this ruling changes things in ways most people are not even talking about yet. Quick question before we continue. Are you subscribed to this channel? Because what I am about to break down could affect your rights as a gun owner right now. Hit that subscribe button before we go any further. 90% of gun owners miss critical legal updates like this one, and I do not want you to be one of them. Subscribe, and let's get into it. So let's start from the very beginning, because this story is wild, and you need to understand how we even got here. A few years ago, the country of Mexico, yes, the actual Mexican government, filed a lawsuit in a United States federal court against several major American gun manufacturers. We are talking about Smith Wesson, Barrett, Beretta, Colt, Glock, Ruger, and others. Mexico claimed that these companies intentionally sold guns in ways that allowed those weapons to end up in the hands of Mexican drug cartels. They said the manufacturers knew what was happening and did it anyway, and they wanted billions of dollars in damages. Billions. From American gun companies, from a foreign government, in an American courtroom. Now, I know what you're thinking. Can a foreign country even do that? Can Mexico walk into a United States court and sue American companies for what happens with their products? That is exactly the question that made this case so important. And the answer the Supreme Court gave, unanimously, sends a message that every gun owner in America should hear loud and clear. Here is what just happened. The case is called Smith Wesson Brands Inc. versus Estados Unidos Mexicanos. That is just Spanish for United States of Mexico. The Supreme Court released its opinion on June 5th, 2025. Justice Elena Kagan, who is considered one of the more liberal justices on the court, wrote the majority opinion, and she wrote it for all 9 justices, every single one. That almost never happens in a gun-related case. Think about that for a second. This was not a partisan decision. This was not conservatives versus liberals. All 9 justices looked at this case and said the same thing. That alone should tell you this ruling carries serious weight. Here's the part nobody is really talking about. The reason the court ruled this way comes down to a law called the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. Most people just call it the PLCAA. That is the key law in this whole case, and you need to understand what it does. Congress passed the PLCAA back in 2005, and its job is simple. It protects gun manufacturers and gun dealers from being sued when a criminal uses one of their products to commit a crime. Think about it like this. If someone buys a car legally and then drives it drunk and kills somebody, you do not sue Ford. You hold the drunk driver responsible. The PLCAA says the same logic applies to guns. If a criminal gets a gun and does something terrible with it, the gun company is not automatically responsible just because they made the product. Here is a hypothetical example to explain this more clearly. Imagine a gun store in Texas sells a rifle to a customer who passes a background check. Everything's done legally. That customer then sells the gun illegally to someone else who takes it to Mexico and uses it in a cartel attack. Under Mexico's argument, Smith Wesson should pay for that attack, even though Smith Wesson did everything right. The Supreme Court said no, that is not how American law works. The PLCAA protects companies from exactly that kind of lawsuit. Now, quick legal note. This is educational information, not legal advice. Always consult a licensed attorney for your specific situation. Laws are different in every state and every circumstance is unique. What I am giving you here is a breakdown of what happened, so you can understand it, not legal counsel. But here's the crazy part. Mexico's lawyers were smart. They did not just say, you made guns and people got hurt. They argued that the manufacturers actually helped with the illegal trafficking on purpose. They said the companies knew their distributors were sending guns to cartels and looked the other way because the money was good. The First Circuit Court of Appeals, that is a lower federal court, actually agreed with Mexico on that argument. The lower court said the lawsuit could move forward. That is when the case went to the Supreme Court, and that is where things got really interesting. If you are finding this helpful, imagine what you will learn in my next video. I'm covering the exact 5 words that protect you during a traffic stop when a cop asks about your gun. You do not want to miss that one. Subscribe right now so you catch it the moment it drops. The Supreme Court looked at the PLCAA very carefully. They looked at what Congress meant when they wrote it. And the court said the law has a very specific exception built into it. That exception says a gun company can be sued if it knowingly violated a state or federal law that applies to the sale of firearms. Mexico tried to use that exception. Mexico argued the manufacturers had violated laws by helping illegal sales happen. But the Supreme Court said Mexico did not prove that the companies specifically and knowingly broke those laws. And without that proof, the PLCAA's protection kicks in and the lawsuit gets thrown out. Justice Kagan wrote something powerful in this opinion. She said the PLCAA was designed by Congress to stop exactly this kind of lawsuit. She said Congress made a decision that the gun industry needed protection from suits that try to hold manufacturers responsible for the criminal acts of third parties. The Supreme Court was not making new law here. They were enforcing the law that already existed, but they enforced it unanimously, which makes the message undeniable. Now let me tell you why this matters to you as a gun owner. First thing, your access to legal firearms just got a layer of protection. If Mexico had won this case, it would have opened the door for billions of dollars in lawsuits against gun companies. And when gun companies face that kind of financial pressure, one of two things happens. They raise prices dramatically, or they go out of business. Either way, the legal guns you buy become harder to get and more expensive. The ruling protected the marketplace you depend on. Second, this ruling sends a message to every state and foreign government that wants to use civil courts to do what they cannot do through legislation. Some places have tried to regulate guns not by passing laws, but by drowning manufacturers in lawsuits until they cannot survive. The 9-0 decision says that strategy has serious legal limits. The PLCAA is real. It has teeth, and even the most liberal justices on the court agreed it applies here. Third, this is important, the court did not give gun companies a blank check. Justice Kagan made clear that the PLCAA exception still exists. If a company actually and knowingly helps illegal gun sales happen, they can still be held responsible. This ruling did not say gun manufacturers can do whatever they want. It said you have to prove they broke the law on purpose. That is a high bar, and it should be. But it is not zero. Here's what most people are getting wrong about this decision. Some people are saying this is a total win, and nothing can ever touch gun companies again. That is not accurate. And some people on the other side are saying this proves the court is protecting criminals and cartels. That is also not accurate. The truth is in the middle. The court protected legal commerce. They protected law-abiding companies from being destroyed by lawsuits over what criminals did with legal products. That is all this is. And honestly, that is a principle most Americans across the political spectrum can understand. You should not be punished for someone else's crimes. Hey, a quick shout out before we keep going. Right now, 73% of people watching this video are not subscribed to this channel. That means almost 3/4 of you are going to miss the next video where I break down the Supreme Court's upcoming case about marijuana users and gun ownership. Yes, that is a real case being argued right now in 2026. Do not be part of that 73%. Join the gun owners who get these updates first. Hit subscribe right now. Now let me talk about what comes next, because this is the part that could affect you directly in the very near future. The Supreme Court just agreed to hear a new case about whether people who use marijuana, even in states where it is legal, can legally own a firearm under federal law. That case is being argued right now. Under current federal law, a marijuana user cannot legally possess a gun. It does not matter if your state says marijuana is fine. Federal law still says no. The case heading to the Supreme Court will test whether that federal ban violates the Second Amendment. Given what just happened with the 9-0 ruling, and given the court's recent history of expanding gun rights, this next decision could be massive. Here's the scenario you need to think about. You live in a state where marijuana is legal. You use it occasionally. You also own a firearm legally under your state's laws. Right now, under federal law, you are technically a prohibited person. If you fill out a Form 4473, that is the federal form you fill out when buying a gun from a dealer, and you answer no to the marijuana question while being a user, that is a federal crime. A lot of people do not know that, and the upcoming Supreme Court case could either fix that problem or confirm it. Either way, you need to know. This information could literally change before the end of 2026. Subscribe right now because my next video breaks down exactly what you need to know before that marijuana and guns case is decided. I will explain what your rights are today, what they might be after the ruling, and what steps you should take right now to protect yourself. You do not want to be caught off guard on this one. Let me bring it all together for you. Here's the bottom line on everything we covered today. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that Mexico's lawsuit against American gun manufacturers is blocked by the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. Every justice agreed. That law protects gun companies from being held responsible for what criminals do with legal products, unless the company actually and knowingly broke the law. This ruling protects your access to affordable legal firearms. It shuts down a strategy to kill the gun industry through lawsuits, and it sets the stage for even bigger gun rights decisions coming in the next few months. Now, do me one last favor. If this video helped you understand something important today, pay it forward. Share it with another gun owner who needs to know this. Leave a comment below telling me what you think about the 9-0 ruling. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button right now. I put serious time and research into every video on this channel so that you never get blindsided by a law change. The least I ask is that you subscribe to stay protected. This community is growing fast and I want you to be part of it. One final and important note. Everything in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not legal advice. Gun laws vary by state and change frequently. Always speak with a qualified firearms attorney in your area before making any decisions based on what you heard here. Stay legal, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.